Hello, Stephen. So I have chosen to present about the short story Hills Like White Elephants, which is a fiction because it's a short story and it was published in 1927, and it was written by Ernest Hemingway, who lived between 1899 and 1961. And Hemingway was known for his short stories, and he was a very important writer for his time period. So if we start with the setting, or we can start with a summary of the story. So it's a woman and a man who's traveling between Madrid and Barcelona, and they are having a stop at a train station, and they are sitting down at a bar that is in the train station, and they are ordering drinks, and they begin to have a dialogue. Um, so the setting, obviously, there's a train station, there's a bar, and there's a landscape around them. So the woman is noticing, she's a bit distant in her face. We can tell from the start because she's looking at the mountains and she's describing the mountains uh, like white elephants. She says the hills look like white elephants. So it's a bit of a contrast because the landscape around them where they sit is being described as brown and dry, and there's no trees. So we can already see a contrast between the landscape they're sitting in, their current situation, and the mountains, like the distant, the future. I don't know. Could be something related to that. Um, yeah, but as said before, it's a pair, it's a woman and a man, obviously. They have some kind of relationship. I don't know how long it has been going on or how much in love they are, because in the start there's like they have this small talk atmosphere between them. They are just talking about the drinks, they're talking like the classic small talk. But then as we get longer into the short story, we can see on page 1, line 57 to 60, she said, the girl said, "You started it. I was being amused. I was having a fine time." "Well, let's try and have a fine time." "All right, I was trying. I said the mountains looked like white elephants. Wasn't that bright?" "That was bright." So we can already sense here that there's a conflict incoming between the man and the woman. There's a bit of tension. She said, "I was being amused. I was having a fine time." So she's not having a fine time anymore, and she's not being amused anymore because there's coming there's a subject that really is rather fragile to talk about them, to talk about for her, and the man wants to talk about that subject. Um, so if we go to the characterizations, we can start by characterizing the woman, which is called Jade at some point in the story, and she's rather helpless and she's indecisive. We see that when they're ordering drinks, the man is talking Spanish, and she's really relying on him and what his decisions are. And she keeps asking, "What does he want? What does he want?" And it's obviously the man that is the dominant force in that relationship. And really at the time the man was the dominant force in the society because the woman was suppressed, and we can see the classic gender roles also in this short story. um yeah, if we do a characterization of the man, he's, I don't know if he's in love, but he he wants the woman, and he says multiple times that the he wants the world to be theirs and only theirs. um he says that the world could be ours and only ours. Um, so he's like he wants to have this fascination of the woman that he had before, but there's something that is holding him back. There's something that that's, that keeps him away from being in love with the woman, and we can see that on page 2, line 73 to 80. I know you wouldn't mind, Jake. It's really not anything, it's just to let the air in. The girl did not say anything. I'll go with you and I'll stay with you all the time. Just let the air in, and then it's all perfectly natural. Then what will we do afterwards? We'll be fine afterwards, just like we were before. What makes you think so? That's the only thing that bothers us. It's the only thing that made us unhappy. So we get the sense that there's a baby. The man wants the woman to have an abortion when he says let the air in. It's like let the air in the stomach, so the baby can go out. I don't know. Yeah, it's an abortion. Um, we also see that in the title, Hills Like White Elephant. So the woman keeps talking about the white elephant, and the white elephant could be the symbol of the baby, because the white elephant is an elephant that is rare and was given as a gift, but the but it was so expensive to keep an white elephant that it would, in the long term, it would ruin the gift, and it would ruin the family that had the elephant, because it was so expensive to keep, because it ate so much, obviously. And that's why the baby is a symbol of the white elephant for the man, because he knows that he he doesn't want the baby, because he wants her and only her. He wants the world with her, and he thinks that the baby would ruin his love to her and her love to him. And he really doesn't want to mature. He doesn't want to have a responsibility, and he thinks the baby would be a burden to them. And but the woman knows, even though she gets an abortion, she knows that they will not be it will not the things will not be the same as before. They cannot just go back to be happy again, and it's like the man is living in a delusion, and the woman knows that he's living in a delusion. She says no matter if she has the baby or she does not have the baby, they are not gonna be happy together again, and she knows that. So the themes could be relationships, maturing, dealing with problems, and we can obviously see the relation to modernism, like the meaninglessness, the child. The man doesn't want to bring the child into this world, or we don't know if that's the reason, but it could be that. And it's very it's I'm sorry. It's a break with traditions, because like the tradition of it was not normal at the time to have an abortion, and that's obviously a break with tradition. And and it's clearly that they are not married, so that's also a break with traditions. And the dialogue, it's like it's a classic Hemingway, the dialogue between the man and the woman. Um, and we as a reader must interpret what happens in the story. And it's the Hemingway iceberg. It's between the lines. There's a lot of below the surface. It's the iceberg theory. And we can relate that to the text The Lottery, uh, which is also a short story. And there's also an iceberg. There's a lot of below the surface, and the reader must read between the lines. The reader must interpret what happens in the lottery. And there's a lot of meaninglessness in the lottery, because it was also published just after the Second World War. Um, and there was a lot of death in the world, and people were questioning why do they live. And we can all we can see the same meaninglessness in the lottery that we can in Hills Like White Elephants. Thanks.